esteemed chair for this Dr. R. Krishnamurthy endowment lecture, Dr. Raja Reddy, the Secretary of the South Indian Numismatic Society, Dr. Satyamurthy, learned delegates and friends. It is a honor to me that I have been requested by the Secretary of the South Indian Numismatic Society to deliver this prestigious endowment lecture. At the outset, I must confess that I am in no way a numismatist. Except in one case, I have never studied a coin physically. And that case was, of course, very long ago in 1995, if I remember well, when I tried to identify a early Chalukya silver coin. After that, practically, I have not written anything about numismatics. But a paper had appeared sometime later, maybe around the beginning of the first decade of this century, in the Epigraphical Society of India. It was about the value relation between the Navilapon and Lokkipon. Apart from these things, I have hardly any contribution to the field of numismatics. And that is why today's lecture is more of a kind of throwing some thoughts, rather stray thoughts, which have occurred to my mind when going through the pictures of the various coins belonging to various dynasties of India, particularly the Deccan and Karnatak. And therefore, I will be focusing on particularly three things in this lecture. One is about the portrait or use of portraits on coins. The second one is about the legends, how the legends themselves change in course of time from the beginning, and what is the kind of inference perhaps we may be able to draw from it. And the third one is about the mint, particularly the mint at Kudithini, where you see the coins were minted all right, but they were coins from other mints were also converted there. Okay, so that epigraphic reference is there, about which I will say something. So this is the first theme in this paper, disappearance of the portrait. Whereas when I gave the title portrait, you must have thought that I will be speaking about the portraits themselves. But I am identifying here one particular aspect of the use of portraits. Its beginnings in Indian coins and end in Indian coins, and provide perhaps a novice view of why it may have happened. I may be right or wrong, but throwing suggestion is in no way bad. We all know that these punch-marked coins are the earliest coins of India. Some of them have been dated to as early a period as the 7th century BCE. And they have been found in large hoards. And they were certainly in circulation as late as the 2nd century CE, as we know from the hoards that have been found, particularly the Sindogi hoard, which has been found in Karnataka itself, with the Satavahana period inscription on the pot in which it was found, copper pot in which it was found, reading Chantasa. That is, that hoard actually had been buried in a pot which belonged to a person known as Chantasa. Now, why I am particularly showing these punch-marked coins is that this reflects upon the indigenous tradition of the minting of the coins. What you notice is that on punch-marked coins, large number of rather varieties of signs have been used, sometimes animals, sometimes birds, sometimes symbols, and whatnot. And This has been a tradition nearly 1,000 years or so in early India, as we all know. But suddenly, sometime around the 2nd century BC, we noticed that portraits of kings begin to appear. And the first instances in the case of India are those of the dynasty called Indo-Greeks. Indo-Greeks were actually an offshoot of the Bactrian Greeks. Bactrian Greeks ruled in the Afghanistan region, whereas Indo-Greeks ruled from the soil of India, particularly in the region of what is now Pakistan. It so happened that Demetrius, who was the Bactrian Greek ruler to begin with, invaded India, and we are told that he invaded as far east as Saket, which is Ayodhya. And before he could return to his native in Afghanistan, his officer, governor, who had been left there to look after the affairs of the Bactrian kingdom, he ascertained his independence. And when he did that, Demetrius could not go back. That is how he started ruling from within India, and that draws the name the Indo-Greeks. From him onwards, we notice that the term Indo-Greek comes into usage in our history. Okay. Now, the interesting aspect of the coins that were issued by the Indo-Greeks is that they have, in many cases, the legends bearing legends in Greek script and language, and sometimes they are bilingual, normally using kharoshti as an alternative, particularly on the rivers, and very rarely Brahmi is also used there. And this was one of the ways or the reasons for which we could decipher the Brahmi of Ashoka, as you all know. Ashokan Brahmi was deciphered on the basis of the bilingual coins and all that. Okay. Now, the interesting aspect of these coins is that Indo-Greek Aghotakliya with Strato first is there, 125 BC to 110 BCE. Look at that Kharoshti legend. I have given the reading there. Maharajasa, Tratarasa, Stratasa, Aghatukriye of Maharaja Strato and Aghotikiya. That is how it means actually in Prakrit. Kharoshti inscriptions are in Prakrit language only. Okay. Now, I draw your attention here. Of course, the way in which the legends have been given, the portraits have been portrayed and all that. This is the first time that we start getting the use of portraiture on the coins in Indian coinage history. Next one. Following them, of course, the Kushanas also issued number of coins which bear the effigy of the king, and on the rare, many a times, the gods of Greek origin, Persian origin, as well as Indian origin, including Shiva, and of course Buddha also. Here again, what you find is the continuation of the use of the Indo-Greek legends along with the Kharoshti or Brahmi in certain cases. So the coin which you are seeing here in the lower end actually represents three-headed Shiva, Indian god, and the legend there reads Oesho in Greek. Isha is the Indian version of it. Okay. Look at the depictions on the obverse where you have the king offering something into probably fire altar or something like that, and holding a staff in his left hand. Okay, this is a very common kind of thing that you will notice in Kushana, you see, iconography on the coins. What is new about these things, if you look at, when you compare to the earlier Indo-Greek coins which we saw, is that you see the full portrait of the king is given here, whereas it was only restricted to the bust of the king in earlier coins. Okay, so that is a very interesting change you are noticing in the portraiture itself. So this is one of the coins of Kanishka, having on its reverse Buddha image. Bodho, that is how it is written in Greek script. Okay, Bodho is Buddha in our Indian language. And you can see how well he compares with the Gandhara Buddhas. As a representation of Chandragupta II, Segupta king, as we know. In fact, Gupta king coins are known for their excellence, particularly gold coins. But here is one, coin on which you can see the portrait or the bust of the King Chandragupta II. And of course, the legend is there. Parama Bhagavata Maharajadiraja Shri Chandragupta Vikramaditya. That is there. Okay. So I will come to the legend aspect of it in my next phase. So we have in Western India, coming to the lower part of India, the Kshatrapas who ruled from Gujarat, particularly Saurashtra, and this Shaka Kardamaka king, Chastana, whose son famous Rudradaman was, we know it. He is believed to be the founder of the Shaka era. That is why 78 year is the first year of his rule that is assigned here, and ruled up to 130 CE. But what we notice here is that the bust of the king has been introduced on the Kshatrapa coins. Of course, they were of foreign origin, but they had begun to accept Indian culture. And by Rudradaman's time, they were completely Indianized, as we know. And the legend that is reading there is Rayo Maha Kshatrapasa Jhamotika Putrasa Chastanasa. That is how it is written. It's Prakrit mixed with Sanskrit to an extent. And similarly, we have during the Satavahana period in the Deccan, large number of coins issued by the Satavahana rulers. In the earlier session, Dr. Raja Reddy was telling about Chimuka Satavahana so much, and the successors of Chimuka Satavahana have entered so many, coins in silver and other metals, that they have the portraits of the king. Sometimes the age difference of the king from the earlier issues and the later issues of the coins can also be distinguished. Okay, so that is what we see. And the legend there, you can see Vasiti Putasa Siri Pudumavisa. So this is Pudumavi, he is the son of Gautami Putra Satakarni, as we know. Okay, but note the portrait, use of portrait, which is only restricted to the bust. I'm coming to the period of the Guptas. We have excellent productions of gold coinage during the Guptas, and Gupta period is described in Indian history as a classical age for a variety of reasons, including the production of excellent literature. In fact, Kalidasa has been assigned to the period of the Guptas. Now, if you look at these coins issued by the Guptas, particularly the gold ones, you will notice that they have to an extent continued the tradition of the Kushanas, particularly in depicting the full image of the full image of the king. Like for example, here you have Chandragupta I and his wife Kumara Devi, and they are identified on the basis of the inscription, the legend which is there on either side. Shri Kumara Devi and Chandraha it should be, I think, or Chandragupta, whatever was there. Okay, partially, gone off when striking the coin. And of course, on the reverse of it, you have the legend Lichavayaha, because the Queen Kumara Devi belonged to the Lichavi dynasty, and the marriage between Chandragupta and Kumara Devi was considered to be a very, very great event in the history of the Guptas, because that, gave a kind of catapult effect to the rise of the Guptas, particularly during the Samudragupta's reign. So Samudragupta, in his Allahabad pillar inscription, describes himself as Lichavi Dauhitrasya. That is the description he goes. With pride, he is speaking about that. Then, so this kind of thing, when you look at the personality of Chandragupta, for instance, he is having a coat of mail, something like this, which is resembling that of the Kushanas. and that tradition is to some extent continued. But later on, you will notice that the bare-bodied images of the kings start appearing on the coins of the Guptas. Then suddenly, I'm coming to a stage where you see we start missing the portraits. Okay, particularly in the Deccan, when we look at the coins that have been found, say, for example, in the case of the Kadambas, of course, very few coins we have. But when we look at them, particularly those having legends, like this one of Dosha Rashi, Sri Dosha Rashi, also carrying a legend Shashankaha on the other side. Okay, this kind of thing, you see that the portrait is entirely missing from this series. Okay, not that there are coins, there are no coins which depict portraits during the contemporary period of the Kadambas elsewhere. In Maharashtra region, for example, we have the Traikutaka coins where you see the effigy or the bust of the king is still retained to an extent. Similarly, we have the Kalachuri Krishna first coins, which bear the bust of the king, and they are in fact known as Krishna Raja Rupyakas and are re-mentioned again in the Rashtrakuta inscriptions. Okay, so that exceptions are there to this, and yesterday I was going through one of the coins which was shown to me by my friend Gautam Jantakal, which was a Rashtrakuta definitely with a, you see, legend and carrying a very, very say beautiful image of or the bust of the king himself. Okay, so that is there, but this is exceptional. And in the case of the northern Deccan, where the Rashtrakutas were there and the Kalachuris were there and Traikutakas were there, see there it is, I think, continuation of the tradition that had been established earlier in the Saurashtra region by the Kshatrapa rulers. Okay, that is there. But if you come to the region of Karnataka, you almost notice that tradition has been given up entirely. Okay, so I think this is so even in the case of other parts of India. Maybe a few exceptions could be there, but there is a kind of what you can say averseness to using portraits on the coins. Now the question is why this situation? Why did we so suddenly give up, you see? Because if you take the Kadamba period, we know that they had very good relations with the Guptas, because the Talagunda inscription of Kadamba Kakustavarman mentions clearly that, you see, the dynasties like Gupta or the kings of the Gupta family and others who were serving them were aspiring for getting married the Kadamba princesses. Okay, that is what statement is there in the famous Talagunda inscription of about 450. Okay, and we have a number of sculptures which clearly show the influence of the Guptas in Kadamba region. Very beautiful images of, for example, Harihara is there from Gokarna. Okay, typically a person who is acquainted with this study of sculptures, Indian sculptures, immediately will recognize it as a Gupta sculpture, and unless he is told that it is from Karnataka, he will think that it is from North India. So that kind of a influence is here, as if you see some artist has come and worked here. And despite this fact, and despite the fact that, you see, the inscriptions of the Kadambas are themselves, you see, exemplary, you see, compositions of classical Sanskrit comparable to that of the Guptas. We are noticing that in this case of coinage, their tradition has not been imitated or continued. Okay, that is an interesting aspect I think we should look into. I'm thinking that, you see, there is some psychological reason that is running behind these things. Probably the suggestion may be that of an noise, in the sense that, you see, when photography arrived, you see, photography, when it arrived in India, in particular in South India, the older generation used to say, you see, used to refuse to give poses for taking photography. Okay, so it was thought that if you take a photograph, then your life will be reduced. Okay, that was a kind of inhibition in the minds of the older generation that we see. And even in the case of, you see, the gods, we'll notice that in many of the temples we do not allow taking photographs of the gods because we feel that the power of that god will be reduced because of that. Okay, so this is a very tradition, I think all of you, us must be knowing that. Whether this kind of a psychology is working behind, that if you show the personality on the coin, then his life will be reduced. I think it's only a novice suggestion, but that possibility is very much there, particularly so far as our region is concerned. That is one suggestion I would like to throw. And portraiture has been revived during the colonial period. I need not speak about it. Even in modern Indian coins, post-Indian independence, they also have portraits like Nehru, Indira Gandhi, and all that, we know it. The reason for this, I'm also trying to see not only in the suggestion I threw just now, but also in the true Indic tradition of going after symbols, okay, which is noticed in the punch-marked coins. That I think is reviving again. And you see, this tradition of punch-marked coins itself was revived again. See, later during the medieval period, in the case of Paramaras, or in the case of Chalukyas, or their feudatories and all that we have seen yesterday during Raja Reddy's talks. I am coming to the arched hill motif. It is a very enigmatic, you see, depiction. There are sometimes some 3 hill-like things are there, sometimes more than that, ranging up to, I think, 10 in number. And scholars have, you see, proposed disputing opinions about them. One suggestion is that it represents the stupa, and the other is that it represents the region, number of regions over which the issuer has control. I would like to throw another suggestion regarding this, particularly because of the occurrence of a figure worshipping this symbol there on the right side, extreme right side. You can see a person is standing with folded hands in obeisance, performing obviously his salutations to the object in front of him, which means that this is not, you see, the representation of some field or something like that, but it is, you see, more of what you can say, the stupa, which was a very, very common thing for that period. Okay, Buddhism was at its almost peak during that period, as we know, from 2nd century BC to the 3rd century AD. It is the time of the Buddhists so far as the movements is concerned, the patronage to architecture is concerned. Large number, in hundreds and hundreds, you know, the chaityas were excavated in the western Indian region of Maharashtra, isn't it? So all that happened particularly during the Kshatrapas as well as the Satavahana period, and continued, of course, even later on also. We know that. Now this stupa figure, which is in South India normally called Chaitya, inscriptions. So Amaravati stupa is not called stupa in inscription, it is called Mahachaitya. Okay, even in the case of Sanati, it is the Adholoka Mahachaitya, that is the word that has been used of it. Okay, so Chaitya is the representative of the stupa itself. Okay, I am feeling that because the coins were extensively used by the trading community, and the rulers were also having a kind of inclination towards Buddhism. In many cases, we notice that the royal queens are, see, making donations and all that to Buddhist establishments in inscriptions, if you examine. So it's a kind of nexus between the business community and the ruling class, which is taking place. And that is why this motif is being repeated there. In fact, merchants, with merchants, the Buddhist monks are supposed to have moved from place to place. That is how they spread. That opinion has been there. And it is true also of the expansion of the Pashupatas, as we know from the inscriptions. So we, I think, should think of this as stupa. Now, if you consider this as a stupa, or Chaitya, then why the difference in the number of, hill motifs that you notice? This is also a thing I think we should reflect upon. If we say it is stupa, then it must have a greater connotation than a normal stupa. Now we know that certain Buddhist, religious or pilgrimage sites had more prominence than the others. Okay, some of these sites, for example, where you see the first 8 stupas were built after the death of Buddha, or the 84,000 said to have been built by Ashoka by opening up the original 8 stupas and distributing the relics of Buddha over various parts of India, of which, of course, Kanaganahalli is one part. It must have been erected by Ashoka himself, because we have portraits also of that king. And these, of course, have the name what we call Mahachaityas. Mahachaityas are always chaityas which contain the corporeal remains of the Buddha. They must have something related directly to Buddha. You can have stupas for anybody. Even a Buddhist monk can have Buddha stupa, but it will not be a Mahastupa or Mahachaitya. So Mahachaityas are always these things. Okay. So easy person or the ruling person who has issued the coins like multiple hilled, arch motifs, is he trying to indicate that this is a, stupa of a particular place which has been depicted? Okay, that I think we can look into that from that point of view also. Similarly, the question of Chaitya Vriksha also. Chaitya Vriksha, we all know that, it is a very, very popular object of worship. In reality, you have number of representations of Chaitya Vrikshas, even in the case of the early Mathura art. Even Jainas also had that, just like they had the stupa also. But among the Buddhists, this was a very, very popular object. We know it, so far as reverence is concerned. So here I think we are having the Vriksha as object of worship, reflecting the Jnana Vriksha or Bodhi Vriksha, as we call it in the case of Bodh Gaya. Okay. So probably this is the representation of the Bodhi Vriksha itself, in which case it will support our understanding of the arched hill motif as a stupa. This even in Karnataka we have this. This is a Mulananda coin, and you can see that, and that symbol which has been normally referred to as Nandipada. I think in the Buddhist context it should be understood as Triratna. Okay, so looks like a Triratna motif and therefore associated with Buddhism again. Now, second aspect of my lecture would be the question of legend. Change over from genitive to nominative case endings. So it's very interesting phenomenon, I would say. Look at these coins where you see, of course, the legend reads Shri Kumara Devi, Shri Kumara Guptaha. I have put H there in that is Visarga there in the bracket because it is not seen there. Okay, Lichavayaha is very clearly there. So we'll see Chandragupta second. So reverse Lakshmi is there. Legend Chandra Shri Vikramaha. The first case ending, as you can see, what we call the Prathama Vibhakti. Okay, Prathama Vibhakti, that ending is there. Whereas in the case of the earlier ones, which we saw on the portraits of the Satavahanas or coins of the Satavahanas or the Kshatrapas, etc., there was always the ending was a sa. In Sanskrit, it would be sya, indicating the Shashti Vibhakti, okay, sixth case. And that was a very common use there. And that has changed in the Gupta period. And except in one case, I have not found any legend on the coins of the Guptas which ends in the Shashti Vibhakti, that is sixth case. All are in nominative gender. And whereas in the earlier case it was genitive Vibhakti. Here again, I see Vikramadityaha, you can see. So here again, Sri Samudraguptaha Okay, not Samudraguptasya, okay, as it would have been in the earlier case. These are some of the titles which legends which I picked up from Bayana Hold, published by Altekar. Chandragupta Shri Kumara Devi is there without any visarga or any pratyaya. Samara Shata Vitata Vijayo Jitari Parajito Divam Jayati. So you can see that Parajitaha is there. Okay. So again the use of the first case in the sentence. Okay. Then Rajadiraja Prithvi Vijitya Divam Jayati Ahuta Vajimedaha. Okay. So this is how we having performed the Vajimedha, which is Ashwamedha. This king having having conquered the Prithvi or the earth, is conquering the heavens. That is what it is. I do not know whether some suggestion is there of the coin being posthumous. Okay, and there is an opinion that Samudragupta's pillar inscription is a posthumous inscription, which was as propounded by Fleet. Okay, because at the end it is saying that the fame having covered the whole earth has no space anymore and is going up now. Okay, so that pillar itself indicates that Samudragupta has passed away by the time it was set up like that. It is so in the case of our Talagunda inscription also. It should be a posthumous pillar inscription. Like that, you see, you have Maharajadi Raja Shri Samudragupta. Kritanta Parashur Jayati Ajita Raja Jayata Jitaha. Vyagra Parakramaha Apratihata Vijitya Kshitim Sacharitrair Divam Jayati Devashri Maharajadiraja Shri Chandraguptaha. So like this you see even the later Gupta rulers have the Visarga in front of it, suggesting that it is in the first case, what we call nominative case. Okay. So this is a very, very important change so far as the legends are concerned. And then what is the significance of this? Now it is, see, these legends are identifying the figure on the image on the one hand, and they are also suggesting that they are the issues of the king. Alternatively, there are possibilities that the coin type has been issued after the king is no more, or after an event has already happened in the previous king's reign. Like in the case of Chandragupta Kumara Devi coins, which are argued by some scholars to be issued as commemoratives to celebrate the coronation of Samudragupta by making great of the marriage between Kumara Devi and Chandragupta first, because Samudragupta was their son. Okay, so that opinion is also there. I come to the trends in Karnataka. Specifically, I am again showing those same coins which bear clear legends. Those of Shri Dosha Rashi and on the rivers Shashankaha. Then Shri Mana Rashi. Now, these two legends or the epithets seem to be belonging to two different rulers, according to me. I have some suggestions regarding that. Okay, the first one, I think, though it has been assigned by some people to Krishnavarma II, I would say it is Krishnavarma first only, because of the difference between the two. Okay, so one thing is that this dosha rashi means the moon, a heap of blots. That is what it means. Okay, and that Shashanka on the rivers very clarifies the meaning of this. Okay, Shashanka is moon. Okay, Shashanka, one who has the symbol of Shasha or rabbit or hair on his face. Okay, that is the meaning of it. Shashanka is a very common name which you come across in Indian inscriptions also as a name of king. Okay, so in both the cases, the king is not revealing his true name. Okay, but in the inscription of Krishnavarman first found in Aratalagadde set, we notice that this dosha rashi has appeared as a epithet of Krishna Varma first. Okay, so that establishes the relation between the two very well. Okay, the second one, Sri Mana Rashi, is somewhat enigmatic in the sense that it is a heap of pride. That is what would, even if you take mana as pride, okay, then it would be a heap of pride. And I did not find any equivalent meaning in any of the dictionaries which I looked into. Okay, but I found that, you see, Manada is the second kala or second digit of the 16 digits of the moon. So that way I think it is having some connection with, again, with moon. Okay, it is also having connection with moon. I cannot see establish that, but I'm throwing a suggestion here. Now the case is that the name and these titles also have some correspondence, because the name of the issuer in both the cases, I would say, would be Krishnavarman first and Krishnavarman second. Okay. Now, if it is Krishnavarman, then you see the relation between Krishna and the kalas is well known. Krishna is supposed to have all the 16 kalas in him, whereas Rama has only 10 kalas in him, related to the moon, I am telling. Okay. So, in that way, you see that connection is there. And Krishna also belongs to the Chandra Vamsha. That we should remember. He belongs to the Chandra Vamsha. So again, you see, the Shashanka and these relations indirectly are suggesting that it is the Krishna who has issued. Krishna, the king of the Kadambas, comparing himself to the Krishna, the deity of the Yadavas. Okay, that kind of a thing I'm trying to see here in these coins. That is about the connection between. So, about the chronological significance of the Mana Rashi coming next to it, I found that, see that second type, this type has continued, which you find also in the case of Dosha Rashi's coins. But what you are finding there is, you see, that radiation, in between radiating spokes of the wheel, you have flower-like projections, filament-like projections around the hub, wheel hub. Okay, this I think is a development over the earlier coins. Okay, you may find that in the course of the history of a coinage, an earlier motif is repeated without change. But of the same period, if you do have some changes in the next one, then you can take that. If we have Mana Rashi coins with similar to those of Dosha Rashi, then already changes have taken place, but they are not become uniform as yet. Okay, so that is why I say it has a chronological significance. The depiction itself has a chronological significance, because this inscription, this bears the inscription of Mana Rashi, again, legend Mana Rashi. I come almost to the last stage of this lecture. There are only two things I have to tell. Yesterday, Dr. Raja Reddy placed before us this new coin type, which reads, the legend reads, Shri Gunada Bedangi. That gi, of course, is out of the flan, so you do not see that. Gunada Bedam, that is where it stops. Okay, gi we have to see there. And this is a common name of the Akka Devi, as we know. This is a kind of legend which is showing a new kind of inclination in the issuers of the coins. Dr. Raja Reddy yesterday was telling to us that, you see, these people have only mentioned their names or some titles, and if they have issued coins in that manner, then it means that those titles themselves were very popular at that time, and the persons who would hear that title or epithet would immediately recognize that this is the person. Okay, that popularity must have been there. For example, if it is Gunada Vedangi coin, then it means that, you see, the people around at that time would know her very well, that this is Akka Devi. Okay, Akka Devi. And Akka Devi, we know, was, you see, the princess, sister of Jayasimha II, and she had her capital at what she called Vikramapura, now known as Arasiya Bidi. Okay, it's very near Pattadakal. Okay, and I have visited that site, and within a small area, which would not be a smallest part of a big colony nowadays, you have number of temples there, a number of inscriptions too, and most of the inscriptions belong to her grants, etc. That was her capital. Okay, so she was ruling over, see, the areas which are designated as Kisukadu 70, a division of 70 villages, which is around Badami, as we know. Then Masawadi 140, which is in the region of Dambal and reaching almost up to the Tungabhadra river. Okay, sometimes he is also referred to as a ruler ruling Banavasi 12,000 also. And this, I think, comes because of her marriage with Hanagal Kadamba King Mayuravarma. Okay, that is there. In any case, these epithets have become catching things for issuer of coins. That is what I am trying to say. So they either describe the character of the person or the valor of the person, as we will see. Here is the character of the person that is being represented. This is a Badami Chalukya coin which I tried to identify in 1995, and against my identification, I think our famous person from Andhra, I forget his name, he countered it and saying that this is also a Vishnu Kundin coin. My objection in the paper was that, you see, no Vishnu Kundin known coin had any legend on it. Okay, and this is found in Karnataka from a place called Bedigi. And that Prithivi is a very common word that has been used by the Chalukyas in their inscription. Shri Prithivi Vallabha, that is the total this one. Then Jantakal also has, I think, a new coin of this type. Shri Vallabha is there. Okay, Chalukya kings were also known by the title Shri Vallabha. Rashtrakutas were also known by that. Vallabhas. In fact, the Arabian travelers, they mention them as Vallabha kings. Okay, which means the lords. That's all. Okay. In this case, you have the conch. And Shri Prithivi is the legend, and I have shown paleographically it has to be sometime around 7th century, maybe belonging to Mangalesha or Pulikeshi II. That was my argument. And conch does not come in any way against my view because it is the symbol of Vishnu. And lion is there behind. Somebody was asking why Varaha should not have been there. But very interesting things are there. If you look into, you see, the greater arena of Indian art, the Chalukyan art, for example. See, if you go to Pattadakal, there are representations where you see a lion is protecting the Varaha. Varaha was the emblem of the Chalukyas. So the kings are, you see, protecting their sovereignty. Varaha becomes the symbol of sovereignty there. And king is, you see, only protecting it. And he is like a simha, that is lion. So the lion motif is a very common one, as we have seen throughout our coinage. Okay, and that is how you can explain these effigies on the coins. It is a silver coin. This is what I was telling about the titles which are, you see, used often on the coins issued by the kings. I have given, I think, there are two rulers. One is Vishnuvardhana, the Hoysala king, very famous as Padigar, the person responsible for our famous Bengaluru Chanakeshava temple. The legend reads, say, Shri Talakadu Gonda, Shri Malaparolu Ganda, Shri Nonambavadi Gonda, Shri Pratapa Narasimha. That is, of course, Narasimha, the first, the last coin. Okay. Pratapa Narasimha, that is how they write it. Okay, just as in the inscriptions also they write it. They don't write Narasimha, they say Narasimha. Okay, so what are these titles, epithets? If you look at it, these are, you see, the achievements or the valorous qualities of the rulers who have issued. For example, Vishnuvardhana had conquered Talakadu, so as to commemorate that, he has this Talakadu Gonda coins. He is called Malaparolu Gonda. Hoysalas were to begin with, you see, rulers who emanated from the hilly region. In fact, in contrast to this, we have on Kadamba, Goa Kadamba inscriptions, Malapara Mari. Okay, that Malapara Mari is actually a dread to the Malapas, that is hill rulers. It is actually used of the Hoysalas. Okay, because they were great adversaries. The Goa Kadambas and Hangal Kadambas and these Hoysalas were great adversaries, as we know them. So they are describing themselves as Malepara Mari, whereas these people are saying Malepara Ganda. Okay, so that is the difference you can make out. Now this is you can see here, Nanniya Ganga. So Nanni in Kannada means truth. One who keeps up truth is Nanniya. So that was the epithet of Bhutuga, as we know. And 10th century, they have continued to use these, you see, titles. Halappa kings also, you see, for example, this is King Udayadityar's Pandya Pattiga Deva of the Halappa dynasty who ruled around 1088. He is Pandya Dhananjaya. Dhananjaya is Arjuna. Okay, so he is Arjuna among the Pandyas, that is because the Halappas called themselves Pandyas almost always. Okay, so that kind of epithet using is there in different regions of Karnataka. That is not restricted to the royal family, main royal family. Others are also using that. I come to the last one. This is Kurtini inscription about which I wrote earlier. A very interesting information is given in this particular inscription, which is dated 18 November 1098 CE. It comes from Bellary district. Kurtani is also known for an ash mound. And ash mounds themselves are considered by some archaeologists as results of metal production. Okay. So that area around Kurtini and Sandur, as we know, are important areas where mining takes place even today. Okay. They are very rich in minerals, particularly metal minerals. And I have shown elsewhere that you see, right from Ramayana times, you see, this area was very, very significant. When you see Sugriva meets Rama, you see, Sugriva wants a demonstration as to the superiority of Rama so that he can really defeat or kill Vali. Okay, so at that time, Rama explained to him that I have arrows with arrowheads made in Kartikeya Vana. Kartikeya Vana is in fact this region, what we call Sandur region now, because in inscriptions that phrase has been used of that area. Okay, and a very famous Kartikeya temple is there on the hill at Sandur, which I would believe that was in existence right from the Satavahana period. Right from the Satavahana period. There is a very interesting reference in the Kathasarit Sagara of Somadeva Suri, where he refers to a Brahmin family coming from the Uttarapatha to visit the Kartikeya temple of Dakshinapatha. Dakshinapatha is south, all right, but it is specifically employed of the Deccan. Okay, so he came all the way in order to fulfill the vow that he will visit that temple. The story is there in Kathasari Sagara, and that is stories of about the time of Satavahanas, as I would gather from the description of this story. And apart from that, I myself have found a Skanda image there in Sandur, which is lying there. It's a very short image done to represent Skanda holding a shula in his hand, okay, and very dwarf one, and typical Satavahana image, I would say. Okay, so that was the case so far as this area is concerned, where metal production is there. And during the Chalukya period, you have, you see, this center where you see the so-called Navila Ponno, which is referred to in inscriptions, the peacock gold coin, peacock-bearing gold coin. You see, that was produced in this mint. And that mint would have been in Kudithini itself, as we understand the way in which the inscription explains the things. Okay. So, a very interesting thing that is mentioned there is that Sri Swami Devar gave to God Swami Deva, who is Kartikeya. A Kartikeya temple was there in Kudithini that time. Varsha Nibandhadim, that is, and the condition that annually, every year, Teruva Gadyana Pannerugalam, 12 Gadyanas had to be given to the Kartikeya temple, Kartikeya god there every year, from which Tigeyalu, that is keeping it separate, set apart, set aside. Puttida ayadolage, from the income that has accrued from what? That is there. Lokkiyu navilum agi ponnavana chinnamam ಐದು ಕಳೆದು ನಿಂದಂತಪ್ಪ ಚೂರ್ಣ ಬಂಗಾರಮಂ ಪತ್ತೆಂಟಿನ್ ಇಳಿಪಿಸಲ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟ ಆಚಂದ್ರಾರ್ಕ ತಾರಂಬರಂ ಸುಖಂ ಉಣ್ಮರು. So this is a donation or you can say a grant conferred on the producers of coins, producers of gold coins, what are we known as Navila Ponnu. They have been given a concession. What is that concession? Every year they are supposed to give 12 Gadyanas to God Swami Deva, that is Kartikeya. And how, from which are they going to give it, if you ask? They say that, the inscription says that this Lokki Gadyana is converted into Navilu Gadyana. Okay, Lokki Gadyana is converted into Navilu Gadyana by them. And when that is converted, Ponnavana Churnavan, Churna is powder, gold powder, that you see comes out of that conversion. From that you see what they do is they keep aside 12 Gadyanas for giving to the Swami, and remaining thing obviously they were enjoying that. And what is the proportion to which the Navilu Gadyana will be having in relation to Lokki Gadyana that is given?